Honestly, my entire idea of Japan used to be just two words: Hiroshima and Nagasaki. That's it. Whatever they crammed into us at school, that's all that stuck. The rest I slept through. Be honest, who else here dozed off in history class? Raise your hand. Yeah, me too. But a few months ago, something happened, you know? It was 3 a.m. I couldn't sleep, so I threw on a documentary about Japan on YouTube. I thought I'd be out in 10 minutes. I got up at 7 a.m. and I hadn't slept. I spent the entire night reading Japanese history. This country's story is so packed with madness that sometimes I swear someone just made it all up. But every bit of it is true, not a single lie. Earthquakes? To them it's as normal as morning tea. Tsunamis? Old friends, surrounded by water. Volcanoes? And in the middle of all that, a civilization survived for thousands of years. That's the real mystery. Today, I'm going to tell you that story, but not in that boring textbook style. The way I fell in love with it myself. Let's go. The beginning is kind of weird. The history of any country usually starts with people, but the Japanese, they don't buy that. According to them, Japan began with gods. There's a Shinto myth, two deities, Izanagi and Izanami. They're standing on the floating bridge of heaven, gazing down, and all they see is ocean. Nothing else. Nothing to do. They get so bored just standing there. So they had this jewel-tipped spear. They thought, let's stir the ocean a little. You know, like when you mindlessly spin a spoon in your teacup. They lowered the spear, pulled it up. A few drops of water fell from the tip. And from those drops, the islands of Japan were formed. Yeah, an entire country born out of divine boredom. It's mythology, sure. But this story is so deeply stitched into Japanese identity that if you don't know it, the rest of the history won't fully click. The Jomon period. The chillest people in history. Now let's talk about actual humans. We're going back 15,000 years. While the rest of the world was still munching raw meat in caves and hunting mammoths, something special was starting in Japan. The Jomon period. I find these Jomon people incredibly cool. They made clay pots so beautifully designed that modern artists would stop and stare. They pressed cords into the wet clay to create patterns. That cord mark is literally what Jomon means. What was their daily life like? Wake up, hunt a bit, catch some fish from the river, sit around the fire at night, eat, sleep. And they lived like this for 10,000 years. 10,000 years. Just let that sink in. No office, no deadlines, no EMIs, just fish and fire. Sometimes I think the truly wise humans were actually these guys. The Yayoi period, where all the trouble began. But good things never last, do they? About 2,500 years ago, some people from China and Korea started arriving in Japan. And they brought with them something that would change Japanese history forever. Atomic bombs? No, that comes much later. They brought rice. And that rice became the root of all problems. Because growing rice means you need land. Land means wealth. Wealth means greed. And greed means fighting. Peace of the Jomon period? Over. People started killing each other over patches of field. Tiny villages popped up. Village heads started acting like kings. The newcomers also brought iron and bronze. So now you could do the killing even more efficiently. Gradually, Japan shattered into over 100 tiny kingdoms. Everyone was busy bashing each other's heads in all day. Queen Himiko. You never saw her, yet everyone was terrified. Out of this chaos of 100 kingdoms, a mysterious woman rose to stop it. Himiko, Queen of Yamato. We know about her from old Chinese history books. That's pretty much our only source. Himiko didn't fight with a sword. She took a different route. She claimed she could speak to spirits. She had a direct line to the gods. She knew magic, and she never let anyone see her. She stayed deep inside her palace, surrounded by 1,000 maidservants. Only one man was allowed inside, her brother. He brought her food and relayed her words to the outside world. Pretty clever, right? The mystery was her real power. What you can't see, you fear more. The kings accepted it. The tiny kingdoms slowly quieted down. She even sent envoys to the Chinese emperor, bearing gifts, slaves, and cloth. In return, China gave her the title Friend of Japan Queen and some bronze mirrors. Ancient Japanese believed spirits lived inside mirrors, so that gift massively boosted Himiko's image. The Kofun period, flexing even after death. After Himiko died, there was some more fighting. Then the Kofun period began. Kofun means massive tombs. The rulers of this era thought, we grabbed so much land while we were alive, we've got to flex even after we're gone. So they started building graves the size of hills. From above, these tombs look like keyholes. Seriously. Emperor Nintoku's tomb is so gigantic, it took 2,000 people working every single day for 20 years to build. No cranes, no machines, just shovels and baskets. Inside, they placed swords, mirrors, jewels, and small clay figurines called haniwa, horses, warriors, dancers. They believed these would come to life in the afterlife and guard the ruler. The Yamato, borrowing God's name for power. Right around this time, the Yamato clan stepped up, the ancestors of Japan's modern imperial family. They didn't just fight, they used their brains. They realized raw force alone can't hold a kingdom. Today I'm powerful, tomorrow someone stronger will topple me. You have to make people believe you're not ordinary. So they spread a story. They claimed their ancestor was none other than the sun goddess Amaterasu herself, meaning they were literally descendants of the sun. For the Japanese, the sun goddess is the highest. So people figured, arguing with these guys is like picking a fight with a god. They also promoted 3 sacred objects, a sword, a mirror, and a jewel. They said the sun goddess personally handed these over as a license to rule. And here's the craziest part. Even today, Japan's imperial family still treats these 3 objects as the symbols of power. And they're so hidden that only the emperor himself is allowed to see them. Buddhism arrives, not a religious fight, actually a power fight. The Yamato were doing fine. But then, in the 6th century, Buddhism arrived. The king of Baekje in Korea wanted to build goodwill with Japan. He sent gifts, a Buddha statue, some scriptures, and a letter. The letter basically said, give it a try, not bad. But at court, this new religion split everyone into 2 camps. The Soga clan said, China follows this. If we adopt it, we'll become advanced like China. The Mononobe and Nakatomi clans shouted, are you insane? Worshipping a foreign god will anger our sun goddess. She'll send plagues upon us. But religion wasn't the real issue. Power was. Whichever clan's religion won, that clan would dominate the court. In the end, the Soga clan won. Buddhism entered the royal court. Prince Shotoku, that kid you were always compared to. Supported by the Soga, Prince Shotoku entered the scene. Old tales say he could listen to 10 people at once. Maybe exaggerated. But that this man was extraordinary? No doubt. He wrote Japan's first constitution. 17 articles. though it wasn't a modern law book, more like a moral guide for government officials. Work together. Don't take bribes. Obey the emperor. He understood that for Japan to move forward, it had to learn from China. So he sent envoys, students, scholars to China. One mission: study their government, architecture, calendar, tax system. Copy everything and come back. But Shotoku's boldest move was a letter to the Chinese emperor. He wrote, "From the emperor of the land of the rising sun to the emperor of the land of the setting sun, greetings." The Chinese emperor froze. What? This tiny island ruler considers himself my equal? I'm lord of the setting sun. Is he saying my day is over? He was furious. But Shotoku didn't care. Because by then, Japan had learned something crucial. You have to create your own identity. The Ishii incident. Public murder, right in the court. After Shotoku's death, the Soga clan's hunger for power grew worse. Soga no Iruka practically stopped acknowledging the emperor. He started behaving like the emperor himself. In 645, there was a major ceremony at court. Envoys from Korea had arrived. The atmosphere was solemn. Iruka sat there comfortably. Suddenly, the prince and his allies drew their swords and lunged at Iruka, in front of everyone, right there in the court. This event is called the Ishii incident. After that came the Taika reforms, Chinese style. All land went to the emperor. A new tax system was launched. The Soga clan was nearly erased from history. And the mastermind behind this coup? A man named Nakatomi no Kamatari. As a reward, he was granted a brand new family name, Fujiwara. And those Fujiwaras would hold the real power of Japan for the next several centuries. Nara, Japan's first real capital. In 710, Japan got its first permanent capital, Heijō-kyo, today's Nara. Before this, they had a weird custom. When an emperor died, the place was considered impure. The new emperor would immediately move the entire capital. Nara was so beautifully planned that moving it seemed unthinkable. The city was a near-exact copy of China's capital, Chang'an. Straight roads, massive gates, red-roofed palaces. During the Nara period, the Japanese fell so hard for China that they started wearing Chinese clothes, eating with chopsticks. They had no writing system of their own, so they borrowed Chinese characters. But in Nara, Buddhist monks started becoming too powerful. During Emperor Shomu's reign, disaster after disaster. Earthquakes, drought, smallpox. Nearly 1/3 of the population died. The emperor decided he had to do something big. He would build a colossal Buddha statue. So they built Todaiji Temple, housing a bronze Buddha 15 meters tall. But building that statue nearly broke the country's economy. All the available bronze was melted down. Thousands of farmers were forced to work without pay. The epidemic did stop, but the tax burden crushed ordinary people even more. Dokyo, ancient Japan's Rasputin. The biggest scandal of the Nara period revolves around one Buddhist monk, Dokyo. Empress Koken fell seriously ill. Dokyo healed her, and gradually, he gained so much trust that his influence at court skyrocketed. One day, Dokyo claimed, a divine oracle had declared that the next emperor must be him. No royal blood, and he wants the throne? The entire court shook. After a lot of conspiracy and drama, Dokyo was stopped. When the empress died, he was banished from the kingdom. But after this incident, the royal family realized staying in Nara was no longer safe. Kyoto, new capital, new madness. In 794, Emperor Kamu moved the capital to Heian-kyo, today's Kyoto. The location was chosen carefully. No major Buddhist temples nearby, so no monk meddling. And in Kyoto began the Heian period, the most glittering chapter in Japanese history. The court nobles now focused more on fashion and beauty than on running the country. What were the beauty standards then? Paint your face with white powder until you look like a ghost. And your teeth? Pitch black. They used a mixture of iron and tea called ohaguro to blacken teeth. Black teeth meant you were aristocracy. Women wore 12 layers of silk robes. Weight? Around 15 to 20 kilos. Walking in that getup meant moving extremely slowly. Even expressing love had strange rules. Directly talking was rude. If you liked someone, you wrote a poem on beautiful paper in exquisite handwriting and attached a flower. Bad handwriting or off rhythm? Instant rejection. It was during this era that the world's first novel was written, The Tale of Genji, by an incredible woman named Murasaki Shikibu. It's the story of a handsome prince named Genji, all about love and heartbreak. The Fujiwara, conquering a nation through marriage, politics. But while poems and beauty games filled Kyoto, who was actually running the country? The Fujiwara clan. Their strategy was insanely clever. They'd marry the most beautiful girl of the clan to the emperor. If a son was born, they'd put that kid on the throne at a very young age. A child emperor can't rule, so the power goes to the regent, who just happens to be the child's maternal grandfather, the head of the Fujiwara clan. When the emperor grew up and realized he was a puppet, they'd force him to become a monk and install a new child emperor. For nearly 300 years, this is how the Fujiwara held the real power of Japan. But outside Kyoto, the country was collapsing daily. Crushing taxes on farmers, bandits on the roads, pirates on the sea. The nobles didn't want to dirty their hands. They thought, why bother? Let's just hire those tough village lads with muscles. And that's how the samurai were born. The samurai, from hired muscle to elite warriors. At first, the samurai were just hired guards, protecting the nobles' lands. But slowly they realized, we're the ones doing all the fighting. Our blood is spilling. But those pale-faced ministers in Kyoto are taking all the credit. Then came the natural question. The sword is in our hands. So why are we listening to them? Two massive clans formed, the Taira and the Minamoto. Funny thing, both clans originally branched off from the imperial family itself. Too many princes had been born, so to cut costs, some were given common names like Taira or Minamoto. So royal blood was now pointing swords at the royal family. At the end of the Heian period, when a power struggle within the imperial family exploded, one side hired the Taira, the other hired the Minamoto. The Genpei War began. The Genpei War and the Battle of Dan-no-ura. This war raged for 5 years. In 1185, at the Sea of Dan-no-ura, the final battle took place. The Minamoto completely annihilated the Taira. When the Taira clan realized defeat was certain, instead of surrendering, they started jumping into the sea. The child Emperor Antoku and his grandmother, clutching one of the 3 sacred treasures, that goddess-given sword, leaped into the ocean. That sword was never found again. The shogunate, emperor in name, power elsewhere. After the war, Minamoto no Yoritomo set up his base far from Kyoto, in Kamakura. In 1192, the emperor gave him a title, shogun, And from then on, the system worked like this. The emperor sat in Kyoto, composing poems, king in name only. Real power, the army, taxes, running the country, all rested with the shogun. The emperor was the brand ambassador. The shogun was the CEO. Samurai were now the highest class in society. Bushido, the way of the warrior, became the life code. Honor, loyalty, courage. Kublai Khan, stopped by the wind. In the 13th century came the biggest threat yet, Kublai Khan. After conquering China, Korea, half the known world, his eyes fell on Japan. He sent a letter, "Bow your head, or I'm coming." The Japanese samurai answered by chopping off the heads of the Mongol envoys and sending them back. In 1274, Kublai Khan arrived with 900 ships and 40,000 soldiers. The samurai had a code for battle. Step forward, announce your name and lineage, then fight one-on-one. The Mongols didn't play by these rules. Poison arrows from behind, gunpowder bombs. The samurai fell back. But that night, a massive storm rose from the sea. Most of the Mongol ships sank. Kublai Khan didn't give up. In 1281, he came back with an even bigger force. 4,000 ships, 150,000 soldiers. After weeks of fighting, again the storm. Again, the Mongol fleet was swallowed by the ocean. The Japanese called these two storms Kamikaze, the divine wind. The beginning of the end. The Mongol invasion was stopped, but that war became the very reason for the shogunate's downfall. Before, when you won a war, you'd seize the enemy's land and distribute it as reward. But the Mongols left behind no land in Japan. Samurai who had fought for months with their own money now demanded rewards. The shogun said, "I've got nothing to give." The samurai were furious. Loyalty shattered. In 1333, Emperor Go-Daigo, allying with angry samurai, destroyed the Kamakura shogunate. And with that, this long chapter of ancient Japan ended. What began was the Sengoku Jidai, the age of warring states. All of Japan fractured into hundreds of pieces, bleeding in non-stop warfare for nearly 150 years. But that, my friend, is a whole different story. From divine boredom to Himiko's mystery, the glitter of Kyoto, the rise of the samurai, and the kamikaze. What did you think of this entire journey? Which part shocked you the most? Tell me in the comments. If you liked this, hit like, and if you don't want to miss the next one, subscribe.